Beings are using resources for making their life comfortable, but they are not using resources judiciously. Rather, they use resources indiscriminately as they presume that resources are the free gifts of nature. Now the question is, why should we use resources judiciously? Let's take a view. Resources are not unlimited in stock, rather they are very much limited. For example, randomly cutting trees or deforestation transforms a forested fertile land into a desert. We, therefore, should use resources judiciously or in proper planning, like afforestation and save water. Do you know what is planning? Let me tell you. Planning is a strategy for planned and judicious utilization of resources. Now, tell me what exactly is required for resource planning? Resource planning is required for sustainable existence of life in all forms, sustainable resource development, and economic development of all regions. Do you know what are the depending factors of economic development of a region? Let's find out the factors. Economic development of a region depends upon availability of resources, affordability of resources, accessibility of resources, and technological development. Now the question is, what is involved in resource planning? Resource planning is a complex process which involves identifying and creating inventory of resources across the regions of the country, such as surveying, mapping, measurement, and qualitative and quantitative estimation of resources. Developing a planning structure with appropriate technology, skill, and institution. Matching the resource development plan with overall national development plans. Can anyone give an example related to resource planning? Surely. Let us take an example of resource planning in India. Resource planning becomes more important in a country like India, where resources are not distributed evenly and properly. For example, many states are rich in mineral and deficient in other resources, such as Jharkhand is rich in minerals, yet economically backward. There is problem of drinking water and other facilities. Conversely, Arunachal Pradesh has plenty of water, but there is a problem of other development due to lack of resources. In India, many regions are poor in resources yet economically advanced like Gujarat. Now the question is, how do we reduce or resolve this issue like uneven distribution of resources? Of course, with proper planning of judicious use of resources. Resources can contribute in proper development only with a good planning by keeping the technology, skills, and institution in mind. Resource planning in India is one of the most important goals right from its first 5 years plan launched after independence. Now, let's see what will happen if we use resources randomly or irrationally. Obviously, the resources will get reduced or one day get completely vanished. So, what do we do to protect our resources? Simply, we have to conserve our resources. Irrational consumption and overutilization of resources lead to socio-economic and environmental problems. What kind of socio-economic and environmental problems do we face now or in near future? Yes, of course, the socio-economic problems that we face are gap between rich and poor, scarcity of water, food and shelter, lack of infrastructure, unemployment, displacement of people, loss of livelihood. The environmental problems that we face are ecological imbalance, land degradation, ozone layer depletion, global warming, air and water pollution, health problems. Do you know this had been the main concern of the leaders and thinkers in the past? Let us take an example of the views of Gandhiji on resource conservation. Gandhiji's word about resource conservation was the appropriate one in voicing his concern about conservation. He said, "The earth has enough resources for our need, but not for our greed." He extracted the root cause for resource depletion at the global level. They are selfish and greedy individuals, modern technology, mass production. Instead, he wanted production by the masses. Do you know there are some significant contributions regarding resource conservation at the international level? Do you know their names? Well, let's quickly jot down their names. These are the Club of Rome, 1968, the Gandhian Philosophy, 1974, the Brundtland Commission Report, 1987, introduced the concept of sustainable development. The Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 1992.